Hi, so hello there and welcome to Three Ways to Lead with Impact and Reduce Stress in a Small Business. We've just got a few more people joining us as we speak, so I'll just give a moment or so before we kick off. But lovely to have you with us all today and thank you so much for joining. Okay, so let's kick off then because I'm conscious we've only got just over an hour. So before we start, it would be really great just to know who's on the call. So I've got the question and answer box open. Only I can see it. You guys won't be able to see what's on there. That just helps me filter um, the comments or questions that might be coming through. So if you could just pop into the Q&A box, what your name is, where you come from, what you do, and what you'd like to get out of the session. So what was your kind of reason for joining? That would just be really useful for me to know, just to get a sense of why you're here, and then maybe I can tailor some of the content more specifically as we go through. Okay, so hi Charlotte, hi David, hi Lynn, hi Michael. Okay, so we've got a couple of people that joined because they're just curious, so that's great, that's no problem. Um, looking for ways to improve teamwork and reduce stress. Yeah, brilliant. Want to understand a bit more about. Oh, right, okay, yeah, yeah, a bit more about how to develop yourself and with a longer term strategy. Yeah, got that. Okay, fantastic. So thank you for sharing. Hopefully the session will give you some pointers, some tips as we go through, and hopefully those objectives will be met for you. So thank you very much for joining, as I say. Um, Laptop's frozen. There we go. So who am I? I'm Chrissy. My business is You Transition, and I specialise in helping high achieving, results driven business owners um, get the most out of themselves and their teams. And largely that's through kind of personal development, self awareness, and personal development. And through doing that, that helps them reduce stress either for themselves as individuals or within their team. And ultimately, the knock-on effect, the positive impact of that is that with less stress, you get more confidence, and that enables you to then lead with impact and ultimately create amazing experiences, amazing employee experiences for your people who ultimately deliver your results. I do a lot of work with what I term accidental leaders. Quite often they're in professional services, so solicitors, accountants, that type of field. Um, but accidental leaders kind of come from all walks of life. I've worked with accidental leaders within corporate world and equally within small businesses. And typically they're people that never really set out with the intention of having a team. Maybe they got promoted and the team kind of came with the job, or they covered for somebody for a while and eventually ended up taking that role over. Or perhaps they're a small business owner that started the business, maybe there was themselves, maybe themselves and one other, and kind of as the business got more successful and grew, that was then the point in which they took on people, and obviously as a business grows, you need more people, so you kind of become this accidental leader who are technical experts in their field. And my background is corporate operational learning and development and operational roles, so I've got a hands-on experience of kind of doing it. I've managed small teams and very large teams within a corporate environment. And I've also, as I say, worked with a lot of small businesses as part of my own business. But I'm sure you don't really want to know much about me. Feel free to ask any questions that you have, but let's get on with the content. So what have I learned? So my corporate background and doing the job myself, and then working, coaching with and training, developing small business owners. there's been some themes that consistently span whichever role people are in. The three things that I'm going to share with you today are the things that come up consistently. They came up for me when I was a brand new leader, when I was managing and leading small and large teams. They come up consistently with people that are new leaders or aspiring to be leaders, with accidental leaders and small business owners. The other things that I've learned over my career is that you're never actually done. So there's always more that you can learn, or there are ways that you can improve and expand, develop, hone those people skills that you already have. For me, it's never about, I attended a workshop or I attended a course and I've come out the expert. It's about learning that skill, developing it, and then realizing how much more there still is to learn, develop and grow with that skill. And then the real kind of nugget for me is that actually there is a big difference between knowing something and then actually doing it. It doesn't matter what you know as a leader, the success comes from the application of that knowledge, from putting those skills, that knowledge, that mindset, those behaviors into practice, and then really building that flexible toolkit so that when the time comes, you can pick out the appropriate tool for the appropriate occasion, situation. And if that tool doesn't work, you've got more in your toolkit to then try something different or build on what you're already using. So without the three things that I'm going to share with you today, typically, in my experience, you get the results of poor leadership. And a lot of those things will show up in ourselves as stress and consequences for us as individuals, but an awful lot of them will also show up in our business as well. So my aim for this session for you today, for the next sort of hour and a quarter or whatever it is that we've got together, is to share with you those three things that I've learned from partnering with kind of businesses like yours, to pack as much value in as possible that hopefully you can think about how you might then apply it within your own business. So, steal with pride by all means. And then introduce some tools that you can take away and think about how, again, you might want to implement those in your business or use them to manage your own kind of stress levels. And then I've got a free gift at the end to share with you. And equally, if you've got any questions as we go through, if you can pop them in the Q&A rather than the chat, that means I can see them. And hopefully I can answer any questions that you have as we go through, and definitely at the end if I've not done that as we've progressed. So the masterclass is in three parts. First part, I'm going to share the problem, or what I see as the problem. Then I'm going to share the results and how they typically manifest in us and our businesses. And then share with you the solution. So what I do when I work with individuals and businesses, and equally some of the things that you can take away and do as well. So first of all, I have a poll. So let me just launch that for the moment. Okay, so if I could just give you a moment to have a look through those items on the list there. And from your own perspective, either working in your own business or kind of what you see happening in your business or businesses that you've worked in the past, what would you say are the biggest causes of stress as a leader? So we've got things like, is it your workload and your responsibilities, the things that you do? Is it time pressure? Is it decision making? Not being able to make decisions because you don't have enough information, or things, goalposts keep moving, etc. Is it about managing your people? Saying yes when you really want to say or mean no? Just give you a couple more moments to fill that in, and then we'll have a look at what the results say. Okay, so we've got a wrap of answers there from workload and responsibilities, time pressure, saying yes when you really mean no. That one comes up a lot, actually. And weak and unreliable team members. Okay, interesting. So those are the four kind of four biggies that are coming out there. Okay, so thank you very much for sharing your thoughts in the poll there. So the screen, there we go. So what are the five biggest mistakes that I see when I'm working with individuals or when I'm working with teams? Tony Robbins, who I'm sure many of you will have heard of, is a leadership guru, very well known in the learning and development leadership world. He is famous for saying that the biggest stranglehold of many business owners is the mindset of that business owner. So the thing that is holding your business back, quite bluntly, is often us or you as the leader. And so some of the kind of mistakes that I see people making are a lack of awareness. So a lack of awareness about their own mindset, their own behaviours and skill sets, and the impact that they have within their own business and the people that work for them or alongside them. Quite often there's an assumption that because you're good at what you do, you're also good at how you do it. So, I may be a great solicitor and fantastic at doing solicitor things. That doesn't necessarily make me a great people manager. It doesn't necessarily make me a great business owner. So there's that kind of disconnect between how I am as a leader and the impact that it's having on my team and therefore my business. There's an arc of joined up approaches. So for me, planning business growth without planning your people growth alongside it is going to lead to failure. So lots of people I find have big aspirations for driving the growth of the business, whether that's sales, turnover, product, whatever it is. They don't necessarily think about the investment in themselves as a leader and in their teams, excuse me, and in their people in order to help that growth happen. There's a lack of understanding about the tangible business consequences that show up because of poor leadership. So very often we look to fix symptoms and not the cause. So we'll put sticking plasters on things and we'll deal with, what we think the immediate problem is, rather than looking deeper and looking at, maybe what the root causes of things are that are happening in our business. We don't consider the whole employee experience. So if you think about somebody joining your business from before they've even started working with you, and often maybe from before they've actually applied working for you, what's the experience? What's the reputation of your business? What's going to make them want to come and work with you in the first place? What are they going to then experience as a recruitment or interview process? What are they going to experience as an onboarding process, an induction process, training, development, support within their role, and kind of embedding and getting up to speed with the job that you've recruited them for? And then what does their future look like? So how, what are their career aspirations? How are they going to be fulfilled? What are the succession plans or career pathways that you might have in place in order to help them, climb up through the ranks within your business or develop skills, fulfill their aspirations? That whole employee experience is the thing that helps support people within their role, within your business, being happy. And happiness, happy employees tends to lead to productivity and satisfied people wanting to stay with you and therefore delivering results with you and for you. And then the fifth one I see is people using lack of time as an excuse not to do anything. So we've all got, no matter who we are, we've all got the same amount of hours in a day, days in a week, weeks in a month, months in a year, and so on. How you choose to use that time or not is the thing that makes the difference very often. And I see people using lack of time as an excuse so often to not do something right now, or to put it off, or to procrastinate, or to use it as the reason why something didn't happen. So let's just start by looking at the problem. So when I'm working with smaller businesses or when I'm working with individuals, quite often I get a version of something like this. So if it's a small business owner I'm working with, it kind of goes, you train to be the thing that you have often aspired to be since you were small, or the thing that you really, really love, be it, a solicitor or a accountant or a baker or a recruiter or whatever it is that you do. You trained really hard and in a lot of cases a long time to do that thing. You do it because you're passionate about it, because it excites you, because it fills you with, passion and fire, and it really gets you out of bed in the morning. For some people, they've wanted to do it since they were really little. One of the solicitors that I work with, she's wanted to be a solicitor since she was like 12 years old. So very often these things are kind of, passionately that grown up with us. And then, you might be working for somebody, or you may have started up your own business because you don't want to work for somebody else anymore. You want to have your own business and make things work for yourself. So you set up your own business and it's hard work, but it's yours, and it becomes successful, and you get to the point where you're just too busy to be you. So you take on somebody else. You maybe take on a couple of people, but it's still a relatively small business, and it's still relatively easy to manage. And you recruit somebody, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's somebody else from outside the business. And your business continues to be successful, and suddenly you're taking on more people. And you get to a point where you've probably got five-ish or more people in your business. And you realize that actually managing a team requires more than you just being able to have a nice conversation with somebody. You've probably, and quite a few of the clients I work with get to a point where they realize, because when there is only one or two of you in a business, you can get away with doing things that maybe you wouldn't get away with if there was 15 or 20 of you in your business, that you've perhaps set precedents about what you allow and what you don't allow. And because the precedents are there, you've now almost created a culture of what it's like to be in your business, what's acceptable, what's not, what the rules are, all the unspoken rules, if you like. You might find that people listen to you to a point, but then they don't. And then comes a point where perhaps you're taken advantage of, or you feel like you're being taken advantage of. You feel that maybe people aren't invested in the business in the way that you are, that they don't really feel it and love it the way that you do. And when your business grows, you have employer stuff to do. You can't just be the technical expert of whatever your business choice is. You have to do stuff that revolves around running that business, like marketing, like finances, like, networking and all that kind of stuff that maybe doesn't come naturally, maybe isn't what you really enjoy, but you've got to do it. And there comes a point where perhaps somewhere along the way, you just realize that life was easier when it was just you, and that the joy perhaps has been sucked out of your dream, your passion. Managing people is hard. People don't do what you want them to do. If it was just you, it would be just easier. And if I'm working with people in a corporate environment, I get a version or a similar version. So people often are promoted because they did a great job in the role that they were in. So they were the technical expert, if you like, or they did an amazing job in the operational role that they were in. So we promote them. And sometimes that's absolutely because that's what they aspire to do. And sometimes it's because it's their turn. And maybe it wasn't really on their agenda at all, but we promote them. And then we don't support them in that role, which now very often involves managing a team of people. People get promoted for their ability to do the job previous to the one that they're in now. Being a functional or technical expert and an outstanding person, an outstanding deliverer of your technical expertise doesn't mean that you can then naturally and also almost telepathically start learning and leading a team of people. there are also three challenges as I see it post-COVID. So we had some really tough years over the last kind of 2 or 3 years. And as a result, we've got people that are reevaluating their roles, reevaluating actually what they want from work as a result of COVID. We've got people resigning from certain industries, moving into different fields, doing different things. And because of that, we've got a shortage of people also that are ready and able to step up into those leadership and management positions where, maybe we haven't invested in training, or maybe we thought we were okay because we did have a pipeline of people that suddenly have now chosen to go and work somewhere else, or chosen to do something completely different because COVID has helped them reevaluate what their priorities are and what they want to do. So now we don't have that next generation of leaders and managers with those skill sets where they can readily step up and step into those positions that are vacated. And then we've got the whole kind of hybrid thing. So working in a hybrid environment requires a different skill set, whether that's you as a leader or whether that's you as an employee. There are different things that you need to be able to do and do well in a hybrid environment. And so we need to learn those skills. So all in all, we need to get the basics right. We need to have our fundamentals in place if we're going to sort out some of the issues that have happened and also have a plan in place to address some of the things that perhaps haven't happened yet, and also to give us that opportunity for kind of growth and still continue to grow our business. So the other thing that I come across when I'm working with individual leaders and their teams actually are there is a combination of stressors. So in the poll, we've kind of identified some of the things that might be going on in a business that might cause us stress or might cause more stress. But actually, there are some things that we do to ourselves that cause us internal stress. And it's not just kind of those external stressors. So just see how these resonate with you. So for me, one of the biggest things that I come across is people that are living out of sync with who they are. So this is almost the biggest causer of internal stress. So trying to be somebody that you're not, trying to be the leader or the person, the boss that somebody else wants you to be or that you think you ought to be, and really living out of sync with your values, with what's important to you. That tension between what I am and what I think I ought to be really, really causes internal conflict. It causes internal stress. And the longer we do it, the longer we live out of sync with who we are, the longer that stress continues and the bigger that stress becomes. This came up in the polls, quite a few of you said this was a biggie as well, and I come across this so often as well. So saying yes when actually we really want to say no, or actually we should say no, but we want to be liked, or we don't quite know what somebody's reaction is going to be, or we think that they're going to be bigger consequences, or it might be just easier to say yes because it's less confrontational or less reactive. But actually saying yes continually when actually you need to say no, not being assertive effectively, putting your own wants and needs out there can build stress. And over time, if you're consistently doing it, will be very, very stressful for you as an individual. But then also that will spill over into your team as well, because you will be perhaps inconsistent in the way that you're behaving, or you'll be saying yes to some and no to others for different things. And that in itself then leads to kind of stress in the team because they'll see this inconsistency going on. Trying to control things that you can't control, again, another biggie that I see quite often. Worrying about stuff that actually is out of our control, worrying about things that are without of our remit, not knowing what I can influence versus what I can control versus absolutely what is within my accountability and responsibility to do something about. And again, if you add in the other two to that, so constantly saying yes when you should be saying no, and being out of sync with who you are, not being aligned to your true values, that can then cause horrendous amounts of stress. And then the last one, people complain to me constantly about, my team are weak, they don't turn up, they're unreliable, I might as well do it all myself. Actually, for me, I don't believe that anybody comes to work to do a bad job. I don't think people come to work to be the most unreliable, weakest member of the team. I think that, we as leaders don't necessarily always help that. We don't always help people, provide them with the tools or the resources or the opportunities to develop and grow. And actually, if we have the right structures, the right processes in place, and we hold people to account and we set expectations, and we've got some great people tools at our disposal, then we will attract the right people, we will hire the right people, we'll develop them in a way that means that they deliver what we want them to deliver for our business. We'll keep them happy so that they are engaged and want to perform for us, and more importantly, want to stay with us and help us grow. So avoiding kind of stress caused by weak and unreliable teams, I believe is, as all of those things are, absolutely within our gift to do something about. So just pop in the chat a little emoji, happy face or a thumbs up or a relevant emoji if any of what I've said so far just resonates with you. Got some smiley faces. Okay, fab. Okay. So just wanted to share this slide with you. This model is one I use a lot when I'm working with people. And research has shown that the results of your business are absolutely correlated to your leader behaviors. So whatever you think, whatever's going on in your mind as a leader, whatever your thoughts, your processes are, translates into your thoughts and your feelings, and that translates into your behaviors. And your behaviors and what you say and what you do, what you don't do and what you don't say, are the things that absolutely your employees are in direct connection with. So how we behave directly influences and impacts our employee attitudes, and how they think impacts and directly influences their own behaviour. And all of that combined ultimately impacts our business performance. So, quite bluntly, you're responsible for the culture that you create and therefore the results within your business. What you accept, what you allow is what you get. And the reason for that is that your team are always watching you. If you say something or don't say something, they're listening to what that is, what the interpretation is of that, what that meaning is. And if you're not clear with your communication, they will be making their own version of what does that mean to them. Because we all do, as humans, we want to get meaning from the communication that we have. And if it's not clear, or it's a bit not ambiguous, or it's not there isn't a kind of a definitive action or decision or clarification, we will make up our own versions of that, and then we will act accordingly. And that's not necessarily always done with malice or done with intent to do something different to what you intended people to do. It's done often with the best of intents. We want to do a good job. We want to do the best thing possible. We believe we have all the information at our fingertips to allow us to do that. So I suppose what I'd like you to hear is that, as a leader, we are ultimately responsible for the results of our business, and we can make that environment tremendously better, or equally as equally worse, depending on how we're showing up, how we're coming to work, how we're behaving, and what we're bringing with our skill set to the table. Okay, so what's the result? So the result is, without having these three things in place, we can cause huge amounts of stress to ourselves unnecessarily, but also to our team as well. So what I'd just like you to do is, just for a moment, have a think about a time when you've been under stress at work. So you personally, and I'm not going to ask you to share this, but just take a moment to think about when you were stressed, and when you were stressed for, maybe it was a prolonged period of time. What happened to your thinking? What happened to the actions that you took as a result of that thinking? And what happened to your communication? So I'll just give you a moment to think about that. And I think about the same questions really, but when you've seen stress in your team, so the people that either work around you, alongside you, or work for you, when you've noticed that they've been working under stress, what happens to their thinking, to the things that they do, to their communication? So just have a think about those things. So typically what happens to us as humans, if you like, um, stress manifests itself in broadly speaking, three ways. So I don't have a lot of time to go into all of this in detail, but broadly speaking, we get physical signs. So you might get, or you might see it in other people that work with you, the physical signs of stress. So anxiety or stress might lead to excess sweating or an increased heart rate, shallow breathing, maybe a dry throat, maybe we can't quite get our words out, maybe the words almost, have you heard the term, get stuck in our throat. Sometimes the physical manifestation of stress means that we can't actually talk. Our chest is pounding that quickly that it's stopping us from breathing properly, that we're not getting enough breath into our body. So therefore, we talk really quickly because we're trying to grasp more air in all the time. And then we might start behaving more quickly, as in walking more quickly or talking more quickly or running around trying to get things done at speed. We might experience strong emotions. So you might see or experience or feel extremes. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's anger, maybe it's upset. Whatever the emotion is, they will be usually felt or expressed in a strong way. And then we've got behavioural signs. So you might notice that people are avoiding certain things. So they might avoid having difficult conversations, or they might avoid going into a room with somebody because perhaps they think it's going to be confrontational, or they won't say what they really think. They'll say yes when they really want to say no. Or you can get the other way, where people come in quite aggressive and maybe they start shouting, or they come in and they're ready to kind of have a go because they want to get there first and protect themselves before the perceived threat, which might be, coming from, they might perceive you as a threat, and you raising something with them that they really don't want to hear and they've got to defend themselves with. There's lots and lots of different signs that happen under stress. Sometimes they come alone, sometimes all three of them come together. And obviously, if they continue for long periods of time, then all of those things are detrimental to our health in the longer term as well. Not to mention our working relationships and ultimately to our business. So if that's what happens to us as an individual, what happens to us within our business? So stress and poor leadership often manifests itself in less tangible ways. So when we talk about, sales or marketing or finances and that kind of thing, that the evidence of what we do or don't do in our business can often be seen much more immediately than it can when we are doing certain things or not doing certain things with our people. But there are always indicators in your business that will tell you whether things at a management and leadership perspective perhaps aren't working or perhaps need to be reviewed. And once you've done that review, will then help you kind of think about where else it might be working or not working as well in your business. But one of the first indicators is that when people are stressed, when people feel that they're not being managed or led properly, you'll get high absence or high sickness show up in a business. So people will just take time off. You might get the bank holiday syndrome where, you've got bank holiday Monday, so somebody maybe goes sick on the Tuesday afterwards, or perhaps goes sick on the Friday before a weekend or something like that. You quite often will see high staff turnover. So people constantly coming into your business and leaving fairly soon afterwards. Senior managers may be being recruited and turning over because they don't like the culture, or it doesn't feel like a great fit for them, or actually they don't feel like they're being managed or led by competent leaders. You might experience low morale. So quite often fingers being pointed, backstabbing, people feeling undervalued, maybe saying yes again to you as a leader and actually meaning no. So they might say yes, but then say no by not doing what it is that they've said yes to. They might focus only on the task, so that kind of almost like work to rule type activity. We might just be less productive, so doing what we're doing, but kind of doing it in a half-assed way and not really being that productive, finding excuses to go and do something else maybe. And from a leader perspective, we might be feeling overwhelmed, so working really, really long hours, not taking breaks, not taking lunch or taking lunch at your desk, always being on call. Teams generally not working well together, people not feeling included, or being a general lack of inclusivity, inclusivity, and being respected for who they are and what they bring to the business. And then externally, just being viewed as an unattractive place to join. So we might have problems recruiting people to start off with because perhaps our reputation isn't great out there in the marketplace. So all of those things can come together. Maybe it's some of them, maybe it's just a few of them. So what do I see? Quite often people come to me and they work with me because they're doing what this guy's doing on the screen, and they've had enough of sticking their head on the sand and just working really, really hard to try and keep things going and try and make things happen and drive the business forward. And just blaming lack of time for not being able to do anything about it or not being able to see a way forward. But as I mentioned earlier, if you keep doing what you always did, you're always going to get what you've always got. So nothing's going to change, right? So we end up with stressed employees who will either stay but be unhappy or leave because there isn't a lack of growth and progression, or they don't see how clear that pathway is for them. They might feel that they're being led by inefficient leaders. They might not feel valued or recognised. The culture of the business might not be great. And then we end up with leaders or managers who have fallen out of love with their businesses. They themselves might feel overworked or undercompensated or totally demotivated or just stuck and not know how to move forward. And all of these things together create stress, as I say, not just for us as individuals and the leaders of that business, but for our teams as well. And none of that is great for business results and driving and growing your business forward. But the good news is it's not your fault. very often, we are not trained, we are not shown, we are not supported to manage and lead the people that come with either growing a business or an appointment into a leadership position. We all do the best that we can with what we've got at the time. So all those tools, that knowledge, those skills that we've got at our disposal at that moment in time, we try and do the best with. We try and get the best out of our people with what we've got. But the reality is that's not necessarily going to help us to move forward. It's not going to help us drive the business forward. It's not going to help us take our teams with us, and it's not going to help us reduce those stress levels and actually lead in a way that is a nice thing to do, an enjoyable thing to do. So my clients will often tell me that technical training didn't involve any management or leadership training. They've had to kind of learn what they know at the moment from what they've learned for themselves, kind of by doing it on the job. It might be that they've grown really quickly and actually they had a team before they were ready for it, or before that it was in the bigger plan. And they've just kind of felt their way through. Some of them tell me that leading people is a pain in the bum, that actually it was just easy when it was me. If I didn't have this team of people, life would be just so much easier. And often, you know, some people feel out of their depth, and that's okay as well. I realise that there's so much more I could do. There's so much more I could learn, but I just don't know where to start. And I feel like I'm not doing the best by my people because I just don't know what else I don't know. And for some of them, it's like, you know, I wish I could just be, insert your own profession. I love my business. I don't want to be the business development manager. I don't want to be the person that's driving. I just want to be the solicitor or the cake maker or the whatever it was that is my passion. And then quite often I come across this one as well, is that I want to retire. I've got a plan to leave my business in 5 years or 10 years, but actually I can't because I have no one in my business at this moment in time that can take my place. I've got nobody that I feel comfortable leaving this business to. So just pop me an emoji or a comment in the chat. Does any of that resonate with you, either you personally or things that you've heard maybe people saying or you've seen in your business or business and stuff? So I've got some yeses. Yeah, yeah, a yes, definitely. Absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. Okay. So without focusing on yourself as a leader and your leadership team, and in my opinion, you know, growing and developing your own leadership skill set, your team's skill set, what you will continue to get is what you've always got. So there will be little change in behaviours and habits and therefore results. You will constantly have a power battle with change, things that you want to put into the business or make happen in the business that might be different from what you've done previously. There will be resistance to that because as humans, we don't really like change. Problems will remain unsolved, so you won't be leveraging the creativity and the experience necessarily of all of your people all of the time. We can get conflict or ongoing conflicts that never get resolved. We have poor communication. We stifle innovation and stifle creativity. And we have this constant run of stress, anxiety, overwhelm, burnout. And all of that leads to a lack of growth for us as individuals, as a team, but equally as a business. And then that over time becomes a lack of motivation, and we start to see things like procrastination and things just stagnating. So I've just popped some testimonials on the screen there. The majority of these are all either on Google or LinkedIn, but these are just some of the people that I've worked with either on an individual level or within their business on some of the things that we've been talking about previously. So I won't keep them up. You can go onto my LinkedIn profile and by all means have a look and read those through by all means. So what's the solution? So for me, in my view, leadership is simple in concept. Now, I understand and I know that there are hundreds of thousands of books and podcasts and trainings and gurus and all that kind of thing out there. But in essence, leadership is a relatively simple concept, but that doesn't mean that it's easy. There are lots and lots of layers to it and lots of things that you can develop and grow and build. It's about the what. So what is the knowledge that you have? What else do you need to know? What other information do you need to have? And then the skill set to be able to put that knowledge and do that thing. But more than that, it's about the mindset and the behaviors that allow you to apply the knowledge and the skills appropriately. So for example, if you think about, so when I work with people, I quite often talk about knowledge, skills and behaviors. So when we are developing and growing, you can split everything that you need to do into knowledge, skills and behaviors and develop it that way. But if you think about a tool, a hoover, for example, or a hammer, to use a hoover because it's quite easy. Knowledge would be about perhaps understanding what it is, what it's used for, what the component parts of it are. So, you know, what it looks like when it's standing up, where you plug it in, where the buttons are that operate it, how to empty it, understanding the principle of what this hoover actually is here to do and how it can help you. The skill set or the skill is then about applying or using that hoover in an appropriate way. So can I use it in the way that it was intended? Do I understand how to plug it in, how to start it up, how to empty it when it's full, how to use it safely and appropriately so that I can hoover up the house in you know and do a great job with it. The behavior piece then and the mindset piece is the how I apply that skill set and knowledge. So just because I know what hoover is and I know how to plug it in and I know how to start it up and empty it and I know how to use it doesn't actually mean that I'm going to hoover up every day or every week or every month. It might mean that I leave that hoover sat in the cupboard and I wait for my mum or my other half or you know whoever to get that hoover out and use it. It might be that I moan about the fact that the hoovering hasn't been done and I blame somebody else for you know not getting the hoover out. The same can be applied in terms of knowledge, skills and behaviours to what we do in the workplace. So just knowing something and being able to do it doesn't mean that we've got the how bit sorted out. And quite often people know a lot of what they ought to be doing. Some people, they have the skill set about how they do that piece of knowledge. For a lot of people, it's about the mindset, the beliefs, and therefore understanding what the behaviours are that help them apply that skill set and knowledge. So I hope that kind of makes sense. For me, we need to learn to lead ourselves effectively before we can lead others. And that's really important. So if we don't know how to lead ourselves, we don't understand ourselves, we don't understand the impact that we have, we will not be able to lead others effectively because we won't understand how we're motivating or demotivating, how we're engaging or disengaging, how we are interacting or not with others. And we need to be considering about how we're managing not only for the now, but for the future. So quite a lot of people that I work with focus on just, you know, that time-bound thing of I've just got to get through today or I've just got to get through the week and don't really think about that almost that paradox of, and I need to be thinking about the future as well, because if I only focus on the now, suddenly the future will be here before I know it, and I've not planned for it. It's also personal. So for me, leadership is about finding your own way. If we're going to allay some of the stresses of being out of alignment with, your expectation or other people's expectations, you've got to be true to you and know what that means for finding your own way. And you've got to recognize that it takes time to learn and develop. It absolutely all can be learned. It absolutely all can be developed, but it takes time. So you need to be kind to yourself and have expectations about what does that, really look like, feel like, sound like. So what are those three ways? So I've spent a lot of time talking about what I see the problem and some of the results and how they manifest in business. But for me, it comes down to three things. So first of all, it's about clarity. So this is about being really clear. And again, a lot of the people that I work with may identify as their technical or their area of technical expertise. So maybe an accountant or a solicitor or a baker or whatever. But the clarity I'm talking about is much more than that. It's about understanding your identity. So in the role of the business that you have now, and also the business that you want for the future, what is the clarity of your role? What is it that you will be doing in your business? How does that align to your values, to who you are, your sense of self? And how can you be authentic and true to you within that? Because if you're not clear about your role and what you're here to do, what you're here to deliver, how that manifests itself in the way that you operate day to day, week to week, month to month, you cannot communicate clearly. And without clear communication, we're on the down track to disaster. So my experience, and I think research shows this as well, is that as wherever you are, whatever role you have as a leader, we always think we communicate really effectively. We always think we tell our teams everything they need to know. But the research shows is that actually teams always think and always believe that they are not being communicated to effectively enough. They always think that something's being held back. So, and also when we're under stress, if you think about some of those behaviours that we saw on some of the slides earlier, sometimes it's the first thing that goes is communication. So we're stressed, so we avoid contact with people, or we might, go and shut ourselves in a room, or we don't know the answer, so we choose not to talk to people. Because we've got stuff going on in our head and our head's in overdrive in terms of what we're communicating, we think it's coming out externally as well. So actually our communication path has to be very clear and very consciously thought about. But if we're not clear about what our role is in the business, we cannot communicate what we want the roles of others to be as well. And if we're not communicating that effectively, as I mentioned earlier, they will be communicating to themselves and making up their own version of what good looks like, what they think you want them to do, all with the best of intent. And if you're not communicating effectively with people, if you're not making it clear to them about what your standards and your expectations of performance and delivery are, as I say, they will be making up their own version of that. That will then cause you more stress because they're not doing what you want them to do or what you think you've told them to do. It will cause them stress when you're not communicating effectively, and some people are doing something and some people are doing something different. And you won't be able to hold them to account because they don't have this standard, this expectation, or this understanding of what good luck looks like in the first place. So the third thing that you therefore need, in my opinion, is a set of flexible tools, a whole toolkit, a host of things that you can pull upon for a whole range of situations or circumstances, and those tools need to be multi-layered. So a bit like if you think about a hammer, tradesmen will have more than one hammer. They don't just have one hammer for every occasion. There are various types of hammers, various weights, various shapes for different types of tools to use in different situations, and they might start off with one and then change to another. So in leadership terms, it's very similar. It's about understanding what are the tools that you need in order to be even more effective than you are within the business that you're in, and how can you constantly build and flex and grow and develop those tools so that, you know, if one isn't working in this instance, you can put your hand in the toolkit and you can pull out another one. Or you can take the tool that you're using and adapt it slightly in the moment so that you can then get a different result with the individual or the team that you're working with. Because having a set of flexible tools and more tools at your disposal will also reduce stress, because you know you've confidently got something else that you can use. Quite often frustration and stress occurs because we've tried one thing, it doesn't work, and we just get really frustrated and really annoyed that they didn't get it. Or we get really annoyed at ourselves because we don't know where to go next or what to do. So having that flexible toolkit, as I say, is the thing that will enable you to more confidently and competently and calmly address situations or circumstances as they arise, and in a proactive way. So one of my clients, now obviously I've changed the names to protect the innocent, I can't name my clients, but one of my clients has been working with me on my leadership program, a leadership laboratory. And what I've done with her and her team is help her do all of those three things that I've just covered. So this person has a plan to retire from their business in 10 years' time. They have a agreement with their number two that number two will take the business over. Haven't finalised the details of that yet. They're still working through that, but the broad understanding is that you know the person who set up the business will step back and retire, and number two will step up and take on the business. But actually, 10 years, you know, you blink and 10 years is just gone. And actually, the business that she has now is very different from the business that she set up 10 years ago. She's got a team of 6 people now. When she set up, it was just herself. And her business is growing. She's very successful. She's got plans to take on more people imminently. That means that she cannot be or cannot do the role in the business. So she is a solicitor. She can no longer be a fee-earning solicitor day in, day out and grow the business. So her role has to change. The role she's chosen, and this obviously doesn't work for everybody, it's about what you want to do within your business, but the role she's chosen is to be more of a business development manager. So that actually means that she is now no longer doing any of the fee earning stuff that actually she's passionate about, that she really loves and kind of got her out of bed of the morning when she set the business up. So what is her why now? What is the role? What does it look like? What the hell do you do as a business development manager when, you know, you've been trained and worked hard to be a solicitor all your life? So what we've done is we've helped her really get clear on, so what is your role? What does it look like? What's your why? What's your purpose? What are you here to do? What are you now driving? What's your driving force within this business? And then help to create a plan. Alongside of that, I've then helped her to kind of understand her leadership style. So where she's strong already, what are the things that she's really, really good at that she needs to leverage and continue to do? And where are the gaps? If she's got a team of people that are growing, what are the things that she needs to put in place in order to make sure that that team understands expectations, can be held to account, but can also perform to its best and, you know, excel and grow and develop in its own right so that the business can continue to grow. We spent quite a lot of time then doing the same for her team. So what does that then mean about the number two? What does the number two, who currently has no leadership management experience at all, how does she get what she needs in order to help her start to lead the team and start to take on some of those people responsibilities now, so that she can grow and develop, and she's not going to wait 10 years before suddenly she puts those experiences into practice? How can we help her learn those knowledge, those skills, those behaviours now, so that she can start to hone them and layer them and grow them and develop for them, so that in 10 years' time, she has got this broad toolkit of things rather than just two or three that she picked up on a course that she went on 10 years ago. So we've identified training, we've identified development at a behavioural level, a skills level, a knowledge level, and created a plan around that. We've also spent time working on coaching, so finding a coach, finding a business coach, a mentor, a leadership coach, and encouraging her to step outside of her comfort zone. So doing those things that actually are going to stretch and grow her, but maybe not other things that she wants to do. Maybe the things that are uncomfortable, but maybe other things that she absolutely has to do in order to take her business and her own growth, and therefore the growth of her team, forward. So it's been about seeking feedback. It's been about getting uncomfortable, or getting comfortable with being uncomfortable in order to grow, because the more you step outside your comfort zone, the more that comfort zone expands, right? So when you then take the next step out, you're starting from a bigger comfort zone in the first place. And it's about mastering that inner game. So all those voices that might be going on in your head about, oh, I don't want to do this because this is what I'm trained to do, and I don't, people don't do, and I don't do, and I can't. It's about managing all of those things, getting a handle on them, and having some tools and strategies to be able to do that. So what do? I use a tool called Harrison Assessments, which is a leadership behavioural assessment. And it really helps to understand what it is that you are about as an individual. So where are your leadership strengths? Where are the things that perhaps you've got blind spots or gaps around? And therefore, where can we focus to help you learn those skills or those mindsets, address those beliefs or whatever, so that you can be a more impactful leader. And through doing that, therefore lead with less stress. Some of the other tools that I also use will help you to understand your value set. So when you are coming from a place of skills development, so when you're aware of the things that you're not necessarily great at, or that you don't necessarily have as skills at this moment in time, behaving in the way you've always behaved can be quite stressful, and we've kind of spoken about that already. So the assessment that I use, as you can see on the screen there are lots of little circles and dots. What it shows you is the relationship between leadership paradoxes, and where both opposites or seemingly opposite things are high, and therefore when we are in balance, what that looks like. So when we're in balance, when we're using both of the seemingly opposite paradoxes together in a synergistic way, we are in balance, and therefore we're not reacting and we're not experiencing stress. What this report also shows you, and I don't know whether you can see, there's some little red furry hurricanes and some red furry dots, grey dots. That's our experience of what happens under work-related stress and pressure. So when each of the paradoxes, or when one of the paradoxical traits is out of line or out of sync with its partner, it can cause us to over-rely on our stronger one. So when we're working under work-related stress and pressure, we over-rely on the trait that we are strongest at. And we just try harder at that, and we work harder at it, and we try more of it. And then because we didn't get the result the first time, we're not likely to get the result the second time. So we get more frustrated and more stressed because it's still not working. And then it's still not working. And then we get various stress reactions. And so this report kind of helps us understand how we react, react under pressure, work-related stress and pressure, how that feels for us as individuals, but also more importantly as well, how that is then seen and experienced by those around us, those that work for us. And alongside of that, we do work on identity and values. So if you are changing a role within your business, what is your identity? What is that role that you are aspiring to become? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like day to day? And how does that align for your values? What are the beliefs that hang off of those values? And why is that important? And how do you then become and behave in a way that is authentic to you and authentic then to your business? And why is that important? Well, it's really important because our values are the things that have formed within us since we were little people. So as we grew up, and were influenced by all the things that shaped us as kind of very, very young children and grew up to be who we are today, all of those experiences, all of those interactions, those influences have helped shape our values, and our values make us who we are. Our beliefs hang off of our values, and sometimes we are really clear on what our values are. Sometimes we have a whole host of values that we're not really sure about and haven't even really thought of because they just sit so deeply within us. But we know when they're crossed. So have you ever had that feeling where somebody's done something or said something and it feels like a punch in the gut? That punch in the gut is your values being crossed or a value being crossed. So really identifying what is important to you at a value level is key to helping you be an authentic leader and helping you really shape and become who you want to be. And the other important thing about it as well is that actually our values and our beliefs form our thoughts, and our thoughts and our feelings influence our decisions and our judgments. And actually, if we're not aware of what is important to us and what's driving us, we will be making decisions and judgments without necessarily a whole host of deeper information. And our decisions and our judgments inform our behaviours. So the thing, going back to that model that leader behaviours impact, employee impact, behaviours and attitudes impact our results, that's where this is all about. Our judgments and our decisions are the things that our employees are on the end of. That's what they see, what they hear, what they feel, and then they get our behaviours at the end. What they don't know and often aren't party to are the values and the beliefs that sit underneath that have helped form those decisions and form those judgments in the beginning. So all of that is really, really important work in the beginning, and what we need to do to start off with. When we've done that, it's then about thinking, how do I then communicate all of those things effectively? So once I'm really clear about who I am and what I do, what that looks like day to day and what I'm here to do and how it sits with my values, I can then talk about that. I can then talk about that to my team, and I can be purposeful and I can be passionate and I can talk about what it means to be in this business and what this business is here to do and what it means to our clients or our customers. And that can then inform our marketing and inform our external communications, maybe to recruitment or, as I say, to marketing or other functions within our business. How we communicate is all comes from that clarity, that purpose. As a leader in our business, we are the translator of everything. We are the bringer to life of the message, the bringer to life of the culture. So what we say or what we don't say, what we do or what we don't do, is all communication. There is a statement in neuro-linguistic programming or NLP, which is you cannot not communicate. So even when you think you're saying nothing, whatever you're doing or not doing, saying or not saying, is always saying something to your people. They will be watching with their ears, with their eyes, and making their own interpretations up on what is or isn't happening. So we need to be really clear about the message we're putting across, the consistency with which we do that, the vehicles through which we do that. So what are the vehicles in your business that exist already that actually are working really well and you'd want to continue? What are the vehicles that perhaps you haven't got in place and actually need to be there? Or maybe what are the ones that are just there and actually we could do without, or we could do with shortening or getting rid of altogether? So when you work with me, we really help you to get clear on what is it that you're trying to communicate, how often do you need to communicate it, and what are the skills and the behaviours and the knowledge that you need in order to be able to do that well and do it consistently. Because the more clear you are, the more consistently you communicate, the more able you are to deliver a message in a way that your team will hear and understand consistently, the more they will able to be or feel able to question and challenge and have conversations with you so that they can clarify and understand. The more two-way dialogue there will be going on in a business, the more communication there will be in general, the more able you'll be to hold people to account and have those difficult conversations, the more comfortable your people will feel with having them, because actually they're just something that goes on and just happens day to day. So there's lots of things that you can do around the communication that is in your business currently and the things that you might want to put in place to help you think about how you can do things more effectively and communicate more effectively. In my view, communication is probably the biggest hindrance and stumbling block of most businesses and most leaders. And you know, our reasons for not communicating effectively will be different for everybody. But if we can understand, first of all, where we're coming from and understand where we need or what we want to do, what we need to do, and learn those skills and learn some of those activities that will help us communicate more effectively, it will cause us less stress, but equally it will pass on less stress to our team, and we'll have people that understand and feel part of, and also want to contribute and want to communicate back. And then it's the toolkit. So I've already mentioned some of the tools that we use on my leadership program. So we've got the Harrison leadership assessment. There are a couple of other reports that I use as well that I don't have the time to go into, but will help leadership awareness. We've got the values elicitation exercises. One of the things I'd like to share with you is a breathing technique. So this is really useful if in the moment you do get stressed or you can feel things rising and you know you're going to explode. This is quite a useful thing to do because it is visual and it's kinesthetic as well. So the way you do it is, as on the screen there, take your hand and spread it out exactly as the screen or the picture on the screen. And you start, take your other pointy finger of your other hand and you start on your wrist just below your thumb. So what you do is you breathe in as you're going, so you're going to trace all your digits. So you breathe in as you go up a digit, you pause slightly at the top, and then you breathe out as you come down. So if you put your finger on the bottom of your wrist and start to slowly breathe in through your nose and watch your finger slowly trace up your thumb. And when you come to the top, just pause for a moment and then exhale, slowly exhale through your mouth as you come down your thumb, the other side. And then as you trace to the bottom of your index finger, breathe in slowly through your nose as you come up through your index finger. Hold it at the top and then breathe out through your mouth gently as you come down your index finger. Then trace up your middle finger, breathing in slowly through your nose, holding that at the top, breathing out gently through your mouth as you trace down your middle finger. And then the same for your ring finger, so breathing in gently through your nose, holding at the top, breathing out, and then through your little finger, again breathing in, holding at the top, and breathing out gently, tracing all the way down to your wrist. The reason that works is a couple of reasons. So first of all, our breathing controls everything that we do. So when we were looking at some of the slides earlier, one of the symptoms of being stressed or anxious is that our breathing comes to the top of our chest. it comes to quite high in our chest. We take shorter, shallower breaths, which means we can't get enough breath into our lungs. That causes us to take more quicker, faster breaths. Slowing your breathing down, slowing and taking deeper breaths has a calming effect. So by focusing on literally on our breath, breathing in and breathing out, you're naturally starting to calm or take in more breath. You're calming your breath down, taking in more breath into your lungs. That will naturally start to make you feel more calm. It's also kinesthetic. So as you're tracing your finger over your fingers, you're feeling that sensation. And because you're concentrating, your mind is literally concentrating on breathing in and breathing out. It can't think about anything else. So you're taking away all of that head noise, all of that chatter, all of that racing thoughts or whatever might be going on for you, and just focusing on breathing in, breathing out, tracing your fingers and doing it relatively slowly. You might have to trace it 2 or 3 times. You might find that once is enough. But what you will notice is it will make you very present and in the moment, and that presence will be the thing that helps you calm down. So, you can do it anywhere. You can do it, go away and, find a dark room to do it in, go away to the toilet and shut the door and do it at your desk, wherever works for you. But that's just one technique that you can use to manage stress in the moment when it occurs, or manage anxiety in the moment when it occurs. There are lots and lots of other breathing techniques. So if that one doesn't work for you, please reach out. I can give you some more. But equally, go and Google. There are loads on YouTube or on the internet out there. But breathing, focusing on being present right here, right now, will help calm your stress levels. The other thing that one of the tools that we use is managing our self-talk. So quite often when we are stressed over time, we can listen to the negative voice in our head. So everybody has this good cop, bad cop, this angel, devil. For some people, it's a recognizable voice. It's their voice. It might be an old teacher or an old boss or something like that. For other people, it may not be necessarily as clear. But recognizing, first of all, that you've got a self-talk and recognizing when it kicks off, and then when it does kick off, what it says to you, what is it saying to you, is the first step. So one of the tools that I use on my leadership laboratory is getting you to do this exercise. So we first of all think about what is going on, what are the things that you're saying, when are you saying it, what are the triggers, and then giving you some tools and ways of reframing that negative self-talk. So if we keep listening to that voice in our head, even if it's only inside our head, it's not helpful. It perpetuates stress. It perpetuates all those feelings of not being good enough or imposter syndrome or whatever it is, lack of confidence that might be going on for us. And actually being able to reframe that self-talk is a skill in itself. The more we listen to negative self-talk, the more we let it finish, even if it's in our head, the more it talks to our subconscious, and the more we then start to live to that negative self-talk and we listen to it. If we can reframe it, if we can change it, if we can make it more helpful to us, that then will help us with possibilities, it will help us reduce stress, it will help us to grow and develop, and also to be able to do the same for our team. So you've got some examples on the screen there. What I would encourage you to do is if you recognise that self-talk is something that you need to work on, just start to, over the next week or so, listen to your self-talk. When something doesn't go the way that you planned, or you don't get the result that you want, or maybe you notice that your voice is chattering, just write it down. Grab a pad and just capture, what is it that I'm saying? What are the things that I'm saying to myself? Because you know what? I would bet you that whatever you say to yourself, you would not dream of saying that to somebody else. You would not dream of saying that thing to another living person, but we say it to ourselves. So first instance, capture it. Second instance, then come away from it, grab a coffee or your beverage of choice at a different time and look at how you could reframe some of those things. So instead of saying, oh my God, it never goes right, or I don't know how to do this, how could you say that thing in a way that was more helpful to you? How could you reframe it and see what you come up with? And then, from what you come up with, is there another version that you could then take that onto the next stage, an even better version? And can you practice saying those things to yourself when you notice that thought creeping in that says, I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy? Can you notice over time that thought starting to creep in and say the more positive thing instead? Because that will be one of the things that will really help you move forward. Oops. Okay, so again, just in the chat, just give me a yes or a no if any of what I've said has resonated with you. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Some people saying yes, some smiley faces. Brilliant. Okay, fab. Okay. So at this point, you've got three choices. So you can admit that what I've just said for the last sort of hour and a bit has been interesting information and put it down to experience and move on. You can think about how you might do it yourself. Go away and have a think about what are you doing really well already? What else could you do differently? But for me, that's also known as the hard way. Or you can do it with a route map, with support and accountability, and think about how you can have help every step of the way, which for me is also known as the easier way. So just want to spend a moment talking to you about the Leader Laboratory. It's what I've been talking about as we go, or as we've gone through the session. I run a workshop for 6 people at a time, which is about taking them through that exact process that I've shared with you. So working on the clarity, helping them come up with their communication strategy, and giving them a whole host of tools that they can then either develop if they've got some of them already or learn and kind of take on board. It's an application only program, so it's not for everybody. And recognizing that people will be at different stages in their journey. It's 5 sessions of 3-hour live modules that take place over 5 weeks online. So they're taken place over Zoom like this. I record all of the sessions and then you'll have access to those sessions to kind of look back on and have access to the content and the slides again. You'll get a workbook that will help you work through that. And obviously I'm here for support as well. And you've got support from the other members on the group. There is the option to do the Harrison assessment that I mentioned, so that paradoxical leadership assessment. If you want to do that and understand where your starting point is, then we can do that, and I can give you a one-to-one debrief that will then help you think about your starting point, really. But overall, it's in the intention of the program is to help you get really clear on what you're here to do, how you communicate more effectively, and to increase that toolkit for you so that you can lead with impact and you can reduce the stress that comes from, maybe using the wrong tools or using some of the tools that you've got in your toolkit over and over and not getting that different response, or just not having enough tools in your toolkit. So what does it look like? The 5 modules look like this. As I say, you can start off with the Harrison assessment, the leadership assessment, first of all, if you wish. But module 1 then is all about really understanding yourself. So getting clarity on your values, your beliefs, the inner critic, so that angel devil, good cop, bad cop voice. What's it saying? How is it helping or hindering you currently? What are your leadership behaviours currently and how are they helping? What else could you do or be wanting to do to be an even more effective leader? And what's the impact then on the business results that you're currently getting, but also those business results that you want for the future? Module 2 is all about thinking about once you understand yourself, how do you then translate that and cascade that through your business? So if you are really clear about your business and what you're here to do, what your business stands for, how do you get somebody in a different area of your business? How do you get your cleaner? How do you get your accountant? How do you get your, whatever that role is in the business? How do you get everybody bought into that vision and that purpose so that they love your business the same way you do? That they understand your strategic goals and they understand the part that they play in delivering those strategic goals so that they can deliver with you where you're taking the business. And what's that golden thread activity? What does it look like? What are the things that you can put in place within setting the direction that actually will help you down the line to have those difficult conversations, to manage your team really effectively and to make more sound decisions? Module 3 then is about conversations that count. So what are those conversations that need to be had in your business that will really make a difference? Now, some of those will be difficult conversations and, having those conversations that we really don't want to have. Some of them will be about, stretching and growing and developing people, about encouraging them to try something different or to go for that promotion, or having regular conversations with people that just talks about the achievement of their goals and tasks and activities and objectives along the way. So how do we really have transformational conversations in a business rather than just transactional ones? And typically speaking, where we have conversations, my experience is that more often than not, the transactional conversations are the easier ones to have, and therefore those are the ones that we focus on. Whereas the transformational ones we perceive as being more difficult or more time consuming, but actually they're the ones that really make a difference, but they're the ones we put off. And then it's about sharpening those skills. So what are those component skills of communication that actually we can just do more of day to day, get better at day to day, and will absolutely have make a difference. So things like questioning, listening, giving feedback, holding one-to-ones, that type of thing. Module 4 is about the basics of team dynamics. So understanding how a team operates, what motivates it, what drives it. How do you keep your team members engaged? And how do you deal with potential causes of conflict? And then module 5 is about making sound decisions. So how do we form those decisions, those judgments? What are the assumptions and beliefs? How do we control and what's the difference really between control, influence and compliance? How do we delegate effectively, and giving some tools and techniques around all of those things. So that's the programme. I mentioned to you at the beginning that I've got a free gift. My free gift to you is a free 60-minute strategy call. So if you're interested in just talking about what's going on in your business, where you are now, where you'd like to be, how you're going to get there, then I'm offering a 60-minute strategy call to anybody that would just like to take me up on that offer. I promise you'll get some value from it. I normally charge £250 for the consultation. I'm giving you my time for free. But I'm happy to share my knowledge, my experience, and give you some pointers or share some ideas about what you might do or what you might want to focus on in your business. If you'd like to apply for that strategy call, then the QR code is there on the screen. So you can either scan that now, or the link that you can see there, the bit.ly link, is the link to apply for that 60 minutes. I've just got 6 slots available. So as I say, normally I charge for the consultation. So six slots. you can pop some time in my calendar, and then we can have a chat. And if the program is something that you'd like to talk about, then obviously I'm very happy to do that as well. But the gift is there really as the gift of time and consultation. So, does anybody have any questions? Just really want to say thank you all very much for listening and interacting today. But yes, anybody have any questions that you'd like to ask? Okay, nothing coming through at the moment, so I assume there are no questions. Okay, I won't keep you any longer then. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your time today. I hope you found that useful. And I will be sending out the recording a little bit later on this afternoon once I've edited it. So yeah, please get in touch. I'll also welcome any feedback if you have any feedback or just want to reach out and have a chat, then feel free. It'd be great to talk to you. Thank you so much. See you all soon. Bye for now.